Picture yourself walking along a river in Eastern Europe. The air is cool. The birch trees sway gently. The water is dark and still. And then you hear it. A woman singing. Her voice is beautiful, haunting, irresistible. You feel drawn toward the sound. But if you follow that song to the water's edge, you'll never leave. In the rivers and lakes of Russia, Ukraine, Poland, and Belarus, there are legends of the Rusalki, the drowned maidens who became water spirits. Some say they were betrayed, others say they died before their time. But all agree on one thing. Once the river claims you, you become something else. Tonight, we continue our journey through the water spirits of the world. Last time, we explored the Kelpie of Scotland, a shape-shifting water horse that drowns the unwary. But across Europe, in the rivers of the East, there's another creature of the deep. And unlike the Kelpie, she was once human. This is the story of the Rusalka. To understand the Rusalka, we must first understand death in Slavic tradition. In ancient belief, not all deaths were equal. A woman who drowned before her wedding day, her spirit could not rest. A girl who took her own life after betrayal, she became something other than human. Even unbaptized children who died in some tellings could become Rusalki. These were the Nov, the restless dead. When a woman died this way by drowning, by sorrow, by violence before her time, the water claimed not just her body. It claimed her soul. And she would rise again as a Rusalka. In traditional Slavic culture, there was a week devoted to the Rusalki. Rusalka week. It fell in early summer after Pentecost, when the Rusalki were believed to be most active. During this week, people stayed away from rivers and lakes. They made offerings. They sang songs. They left flower wreaths at the water's edge. Not to honor the Rusalki, but to appease them. The Rusalki were said to be beautiful beyond measure. Pale skin, like moonlight on water. Long hair, some say green, others say gold, that flowed like the rivers themselves. They appeared most often at night, especially under the full moon. They would sit on the riverbanks combing their hair, or dance in the moonlight, their voices raised in song. And their songs were a lure. When a man heard a Rusalka singing, he felt compelled to follow her. He would walk to the water's edge, drawn by the voice. And when he arrived, there are different versions of what happened next. In some tales, the Rusalka would pull him beneath the surface, drowning him in her cold embrace. In others, she would tickle him until he couldn't breathe, until he laughed himself into exhaustion, until he drowned from within. And by morning, the river would be calm again, as if nothing had happened. There was one way to possibly survive an encounter with a Rusalka. In some legends, she carried a comb. A magical comb with which she groomed her long hair. If you could take the comb from her, if you were quick enough, clever enough, she might let you go. Or better yet, she might grant you a wish. But most men never got that chance. In the villages along the rivers of Eastern Europe, everyone knew someone who had an encounter. There was the story of the young man who fell in love with the Rusalka. He would meet her every night by the river. She would sing to him, and he would listen for hours. But she warned him, "Never try to follow me into the water." For months, he obeyed. Until one night, he didn't. They found his body 3 days later, Even into the Soviet era, stories persisted. In 1973, near Kiev, fishermen reported hearing songs from the river at night. Beautiful voices that seemed to come from nowhere. In the 1980s, a man in rural Belarus claimed he saw a woman combing her hair on the riverbank. When he approached, she vanished into the water. He never went near that river again. Like many folklore traditions, the legend of the Rusalka served a practical purpose. The rivers of Eastern Europe could be dangerous. Deep, cold, deceptive. The warning was clear: stay away from the water, especially at night. Don't swim alone. Don't wander near rivers after dark. Because the Rusalki were waiting. But there's something more in this legend. The Rusalka isn't just a warning about drowning. She's a story about women betrayed. Women who died before their time. Women whose stories ended too soon. In traditional Slavic society, a woman's worth was often tied to marriage. To die before that, to drown, to be betrayed was to be denied your purpose. And so, the legend says you return. Not as you were, but as something else. Beautiful, powerful, and vengeful. The Rusalka isn't alone in Slavic mythology. There's the Yuki-onna, the male water spirit, ancient and cruel. There's the Movka, the Ukrainian variant, tied to the forest as well as the water. And across cultures, the pattern repeats. In Ireland, the banshee wails. In Scotland, the kelpie waits. In Mexico, La Llorona weeps. All of them connected to water. All of them tied to death. All of them born from tragedy. Today, the rivers of Eastern Europe still flow. The birch trees still sway. And on quiet nights, some say, you can still hear singing. The legend of the Rusalka reminds us that water holds memory. That tragedy echoes through time. And that beauty can hide the deepest dangers. The Rusalka and the kelpie are just two of the water spirits that haunt our deepest fears. But across the world, in the frozen mountains of Japan, there's another. A spirit of ice and snow. A woman in white who appears in blizzards. Her story is next. If you want to journey deeper into the water spirits of the world, subscribe to this channel. Watch our previous episode on the kelpie. And join us next time when we travel to Japan. Until then, stay away from the water at night. You never know what might be singing.